do a flight with the Zlin Aviation Shock Ultra. Nice little aircraft. Here it is here. And we are going to do that flight in Florida. And we're using real time and real weather for this flight. I'm just going to zoom in here. Also, I'd like to do a short flight because this plane doesn't fly very fast, and it's mainly for short flights anyway. It's an excellent little plane to fly. And we're going to use a little Namap here. It's a free software that you can download if you Google it. I've got the latest version running right now, which just came out recently. I'm just going to hit Tools, and I'm just going to hit Connect to my flight simulator program, which is running in the background. And I'm going to check these boxes off. Connect automatically, and I'm going to just say Connect. So right now you can see I have the compass turned on. You can turn that off and on just like this. So it's a very easy program to use. It's very you know, self-explanatory almost. When you scroll over these boxes or look for pop-down menus, you know, it'll tell you what the different things are for. But for this flight, this is a weather indicator for the airport. If I click on that, you can see it came up on these airports here. Shows the wind blowing in this direction, blows towards the circle, and it's not too strong. We're going to leave from Spruce Creek, but so we don't have the weather for Spruce Creek. But if I hold my mouse right over it, this box opens up and it tells you about that airport, which is one of the nice things about little Namap for creating flight plans. So if you scroll down, among the other things, you can see it gives you the NOAA nearest METAR information. So it's basically saying that the wind is blowing out of 310 at 10 knots and gusting to 15 knots. So if you go across, you'll see that information. First you get the station identifier, then you get the date, which is the 19th, and you get 1847 Zulu time, and then you get your weather, and then some additional information like your barometric pressure is 29 or 9 or 4, and it tells you there's a parking 6, ramp GA small 46 feet. You know, there's some information like that on your parking ramps. So what I'm going to do is look at the weather here. It's blowing in this direction, so I'm going to see if I pick runway number 30 if I'll get that when I import this plan into Microsoft Flight Sim. So what I'm going to do is scroll over here to Spruce Creek, and I'm going to zoom in, and you can see this runway looks like it's not in use. It's got X's on it. So this one is, and the wind's more or less blowing in that direction. So I'm going to select runway 24 for departure, and I'm going to select this parking spot here for departure. So you can do that for departure, but you can't really pick a ramp or parking spot for arrival unless somebody knows how to do that. I haven't been able to do it with a little nav map. So we've got this as our departure, and we can open up our flight plan window by clicking on this little box here. So there, it's already picked that airport for us. So now we need to select a departure. I'm going to pick 24. Say OK. Okay, so I'm not sure. It picked 6. So let's just go back, just redo that, and I'm going to go again. Departure 24. I must have clicked on 6. Say OK. There we go. They were close together. So we're going to fly in this direction. So we've got a runway and a departure airport. So now we need a destination. We're going to go to DeLand Municipal here, and I think we said we were going to pick runway 30 because of the wind. I'll just turn that wind barb off. So I'll show you what I mean though for trying to pick a gate. If I try and pick that gate, it won't give it to me. And I'll zoom in and try and pick this one. It wants to, some of these gates, if they're in use, you can't get them, but see this one here, it clicked on, but it's setting it as a departure. So if I clicked on that, it's going to set, you know, tell little nav map that I want to leave from there. So I just wanted to show you that. So if anyone knows how to do that, let me know. All right, so we're going to pick runway 30, and we are going to pick this airport first as a destination. And once we do that, we can pick a runway. So let me just pick runway 30 because of the wind direction. There we go. So there's our destination airport, and little nav maps connected these. It's a pretty short flight, but I want to do just a calculation anyway. So I've got 2,000 feet here for an altitude. I'm just going to show you what happens if I pick 1,000. So we're going to calculate. It's an IFR, instrument flight rules. I'll be looking at my instruments, but it's going to be a visual flight landing because this plane does not have a Garmin G1000 or anything like that, GPS system. So let's just click on calculate, and I'm just going to do adjust. You see it went to 2,000 because 1,000 was too low. So if you pick a wrong altitude for your flight, you may get a red warning here that you have to change your altitude or something else in your flight plan. So now I'm going to hit calculate, and it should put in a waypoint, which it did, this one right here. So really not much changed, but it did calculate a flight plan for us. So in order to save it to the little nav map, you just click there and click save. And if you have another one you've been working on with the same name, in other words, this plan has changed, just replace it with your latest version. The other thing too is to open that flight plan in little nav map, you would just click on here and find it. So that was right there. There it is right there. So if you wanted to open that flight plan again, but to export it to Microsoft Flight Sim, it's a little sensitive there. You click Export Flight Plan as a Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 plan. So I'll click there. It will name the file for you, and it will know where to look in your folder where your flight plans are saved. And just click Save, and once again replace it if you have an identical one in there. So you're ready to go now. So runway 24 departure and runway 30 for arrival. So let's just see how this goes down. I've got just going to close that like so. You can drag this around if you get it in the right spot, your mouse. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to just size this down. Now you can zoom in here, and if you have this clicked, you see it says keep the user aircraft centered on the map. It'll do that for you. Also, if you click here, it'll show the simulator aircraft as a symbol on the map. So it should center things up for us once we get rolling. So I'm just going to put that there for now, and I'm just going to click on the Microsoft Flight Sim window, and when I do that, little nav map disappears because my mouse can only work with one or the other, and the same with the keyboard. So if you have a little nav map up and you're typing on your keyboard like G for gear, it's not going to work. You have to close little nav map down. But if you are using your joystick to fly, your joystick isn't really connected to a little nav map, so you'll be able to fly the aircraft using your joystick. And I have a lot of buttons programmed into my joystick. I programmed every one I had to do something, such as rudders and autopilot, auto throttle, spoilers, etc. Okay, so how do we get that plan into little this aircraft and also Microsoft Flight Sim? You just click More, you click Load, and then you click Load from this PC because that's where we saved it, and then we go to the flight plan, which was Spruce Creek to DeLand Municipal, and you just say Open. And now we have a short little 10-minute flight here, because really all I'm going to do is test this plane and see how well it flies, how easy it is to take off and how easy it is to land. That's what I'm looking at. We're going to use the checklist provided by Microsoft to familiarize us with the startup procedures for this aircraft and takeoff procedures. Now, this is a tail dragger with a little wheel on it, so the tires are, got lots of inflation air in them, and they're soft. So when you land, it does tend to bounce. So there's our big round air-filled soft tires, and there's our little tail dragger. Now, another thing about these tail draggers, if you put your brakes on abruptly, you are going to probably nosedive, face plant into the pavement, break your propeller, and end your flight. So just be careful with that. So what I'm going to do, we won't need to push back here from the looks of things. And if you look here, you can see this is a taxiway here, but it's really narrow with trees. So I'm just going to go out this way and wherever we have to go for the... I want to see what they assign to us. I asked for runway 24, which I think is down here. So let's go inside the aircraft. And I'm just using my button on my joystick to do that, one that's programmed for interior exterior view. And I'm just going to hit before starting the engine, and I'm just going to do an evaluation so we can see.
Test and set.
Okay.
Radios.
So there we go. So if it gets hung up on any of these checklist things, you can autocomplete and force complete them.
Off. Throttle. Closed.
Okay.
Ignition. Off.
The magnetos.
Master switch. Off. Propeller area.
So you just go outside, and we'll just take a look at the aircraft and make sure it's clear. Any obstructions, such as airport staff. Also, you can see that the plane's very nicely rendered by Microsoft Flight Sim. The detail is excellent. I find in just about every one of the planes they've done, it's beautifully rendered. Like all the little detail here, it's really well done. And there we are inside. Let's see if we have a co-pilot in there. No, it's just almost nobody in the back there. Two-seater. Okay, so we're going to go back inside and just tick that item.
Clear.
So now we're going to start the engine, which is a pretty simple procedure. So we're going to do an evaluation again so you can see.
On. Choke. On. Master switch. On. Ignition switches.
Got to put those on.
On. Start.
I'm just going to autocomplete that
Turnkey.
over there. So it's a little difficult to turn that with the mouse. Avionics switch. We got to turn that on.
On.
Okay, we got some
Throttle.
avionics there. Now I'm just going to autocomplete that rather than try and do it manually, but my joystick controls the throttle for me. So
Adjust 1600 RPM. Engine gauges. Check.
okay,
Choke.
I'm going to turn that off now. Okay, so after starting the engine, got to turn the avionics master switch. Let's just take a look at that.
Avionics master switch. On.
Okay, we just want to make sure.
Brakes.
The brakes. Now, To release the brakes, all you have to do is press Control Delete. But you want to have your throttle on idle. So Control Delete will release the brakes. Okay, so I'm just going to close that down, and now we're going to see where we have to go. So I have once we start rolling, I think we'll be okay. I'm not going to ask for a pushback. Okay, so it's a little tricky here. I'm going to get behind it so I can see where I'm going. You don't get to see too much out there. I hit spacebar and I could see a little better. So let's just go see where we're at here. So they kind of wanted us to go down this way here, but it, like I said, it's very narrow at this airport, so don't think we want to do that. We're not going to need a full runway here because this plane takes off very easily, so we're just going to turn here. Now, I'm going to check and see what runway they told us. This announced taxi. Runway 24. Okay, so let's take a look at little nav map. And see, this is runway 24. And here's where we are. We're right here. So we're going to take off in that direction. So I'm just ignoring these arrows for now. So let's just go out and line ourselves up. And you'll see what I mean about how easy this plane takes off. So I'm just going to put the flaps down and give it full throttle. So we're up in the air already. So I'm going to bring up the flaps. Now what we need to do is follow a flight plan. And just looking at the aircraft, I'm just going to bring up a little nav map. And so we're going in the right direction, but this magenta arrow's in the opposite direction, so I'm not sure why. That doesn't seem to agree, but at any rate, we can follow our flight plan using a little nav map. And also, let's take a look at the map provided by, see, I had to turn off a little bit. This map here, let's see what that shows. Okay, so there's our flight plan. So for some reason, our flight plan showed us taking off on the not runway 24, but the opposite end, and coming around, going back this way. So we actually just saved ourselves some time. This arrow should switch then once we get to here, I imagine. Once we get heading for Pixie, which was one of the waypoints created. So I'm just going to slowly climb up to 2,000. Doesn't look like, we'll see what happens when we get to this waypoint here. But anyways, I want to go to about 2,000 and hit B on your keyboard, B for Bravo, and that will set your barometric pressure. Let's go inside and look at this. So there's our basic gauges. There's our altitude gauge, our vertical speed, and there's our airspeed, and RPMs, you can see. Fuel. So it does have a little avionics. There's our attitude indicator calibration dial there, and our attitude indicator. So you can see we're flying pretty level here. So the plane's not too hard to fly. I'm going to close this down, bring up a little nav map. see if I can follow our flight plan here. Like this. See if I can hit. You can see little nav map is following our plane and knows that we've already are heading to this waypoint here. So just going to turn, and the instruments are nicely laid out here. We got a compass down here, so it's not too hard to see your altitude in this aircraft and your airspeed, etc., vertical speed. Okay, so I'm just going to make another turn here, try and hold it around 2,000 feet. So what I'm interested in seeing is how this thing lands. These planes with sort of like the balloon tires on them, they tend to bounce a bit. So I'm just going to try and keep it at around 2,000 if I can. I got air traffic control turned off because they're constantly telling you to you're above or below your assigned altitude, which is fine, but I don't think you need to hear that. Okay, so let's take a look outside and see Florida down below. Anybody that's familiar with this part of the country might recognize some of the highways, but the nice thing about little nav map is it tells you there's State Road 44, Pioneer Trail, so it's great for doing visual flight if you want to follow it. I mean, it'll get you to where you want to go. So this is top of climb here, TOC, which we'll be reaching shortly. So now you can see that the GPS needle has swung around and is agreeing with this, so that's a good sign. So that means the flight plan got imported quite well into Microsoft Flight Sim. So I'm just going to click on here. This is heads-up display, which you can turn on in your settings. So you can see a compass, you can see a GPS route to follow, you can see airspeed, engine, fuel, angle of attack, you can see your altitude, you can see I'm going up here, vertical speed, and your flaps and trim. So if I trim down a bit, we should level off instead of climbing. So I can follow this needle here, I can chase that needle, and it'll also get us there. So don't necessarily need the nav map. Now I'm going to go up here again and bring this map up and take a look at it and see what it looks like. Okay, so that's working out okay now too. So you could actually use this if you wanted to, but basically, you know, you're going to use your compass if you have your headings to follow, and that'll get you there as well. So this is almost like a GPS screen. So this thing hasn't been retrofitted with a GPS screen, but I imagine you could do that. Pretty much right on track here. I'm just going to try and trim up a bit so we don't descend too much. Get my airspeed up a little. Just see if I can trim up a bit. So when I push that down, it trims up. Trims the plane so it'll rise. Just going to try and get it going up a bit again so we're not descending. And we're pretty much right on track here. Let's bring the little nav map up again. You can see how it's following us. So let's just take a look here. So with little nav map you can also bring up a terrain view. So you can see here's where we are. So we want to descend now. to the airport. We're going to turn and line up shortly. This needle should swing. There it goes right there. There's the runway you can see up here. Right here. So it's just pretty much a visual thing now, visual flight rules, and just watching my instruments. You want to try and descend at about 3 degrees on a glide slope of about 3 degrees, and you don't want to be going too fast. And I'll have to put my flaps down. Landing gear does not retract, of course. So I'm just going to put the flaps down. I'm getting close enough for that now. I think you don't want to be going too fast. I might be going a little too fast for those flaps. Probably should have been in the white area there, right here, for the flaps. I'm not sure if they have information inside here. Sometimes they tell you when you can and can't put the flap. There you go, flaps, right there. Maximum speed with flaps 180. Never exceed speed with slats 185. Oh, that's slats. Okay. Alrighty, let's. I'm looking at that. Let's get back to paying attention to the landing. So what I'm going to try and do here is bring this in very gradually and set it down as gently as I can on the runway so I don't bounce. So I'm not sure how that's going to go because I'm fairly new at trying to fly this aircraft. But I must say I really think it's a great little plane, especially if you're doing sightseeing. It's nice and slow. So if you wanted to fly around New York City, it's probably a great little plane to do it with. I'm not sure the airspeed gauge is working though. You see outside it says we're doing 75. Inside it looks like we're doing like 140. So I'm not sure. Alright, let me see if I can get lined up here. So we're at 800. I'll just check the barometric pressure again. 700 feet. I gotta get down a little bit better than this. I think I'm a little high right now. I think those little white lights on that runway there indicating I'm a little high. Let's see if they change color or if they're actually working. Okay. Alrighty. I don't know if they're lights or not. Okay, so I'm just going to try and set this down as gently as I can. So you don't want to brake hard. You're going to end up, it is bouncing a little bit. You don't want to brake hard because it will nosedive. So let's just see how we're doing there. It does slow down pretty good though. Okay, we can bring up the flaps. So little tiny bit of bouncing there, but not too bad. This is the third flight I've tried with it. The first one, it landed beautifully on these front wheels, no bouncing whatsoever. So it's possible to do that. But this flight, the previous one and this one, it did bounce a bit. So I'm not just bringing it in perfect, even though I wasn't going very fast. Okay, so I'm just going to see if we can tune. See if we can get a taxi, announce takeoff, select runway for landing. Okay, so we didn't go through that because we weren't using air traffic control. Little nav map will show us where to go, which is one of the nice things about having it. So let's say we want to go to gate, let's see where we are here, right here. So if we want to go to gate 46, for example, we would know which way to go. We go up here and turn left here. So let's try that and see if we can get to gate 46. Okay. All right. Get behind. Then I'm going to bring the little nav map on. So I can see where I'm going here. Yeah, you don't want to go too fast. This thing will actually start lifting into the air. Doesn't take much. You can see the tail's already up, so it's swerving back and forth a bit. So if you don't know your way around the airport at all that you're flying into, little nav map is great for helping you find the taxiway Alpha there, for example, which we're turning on. So it's really helpful for that, along with a whole lot of other useful information that it provides about the airports and the weather, etc. So I'm just going to go straight ahead here and see if we can find that gate. At this small municipal airport. You can see a gate over here. We're just going to go straight ahead here. See if we can get to gate 46. I'll have to keep an eye on the plane. So you can see there's a little bit of a lag between where we are on the airport and where little nav map, the frames catch up to us, and just a tiny bit of lag there, but it does center the aircraft if you have that clicked, which is really helpful. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so I don't want to stop too quickly. You got lots of parking spots here, that's for sure. Okay, so we're just about there. Thank you very much for joining me on this flight. I really appreciate it. Looks like this is where we'd stop in this area here. Might be a little bit off. Maybe right there is where I could have been. But anyway, we are nicely parked. Thank you very much for joining me. Let me just have a look here. Yeah, okay, so we're okay here, I think. So I hope you learned a little something about flying this aircraft, and you'll give it a try yourself. Great little airplane to fly, easy to take off, easy to land, a little tricky to make a perfect landing. Okay, catch you next time. Take care.